among our favorites here on the show, has a heritage restaurant there in Fort Lauderdale. It's red hot. It's smoking hot. Reno Sorbonne joins us here on the show, our hockey analyst. What is it that has these franchises turning on Gerard Gallant, no matter what level of success he has? Now, no longer coaching, but I mean, it was 3 times he was doing well with the Panthers. They threw him off the team bus in a snowdrift in Saskatchewan. He was doing great with the Vegas Golden Knights, and they, sent him out to the bunny ranch there and said, "Hey, take one up the ass, Gerard. You're out of here." Doing well with the Rangers, and they wouldn't even sell him a knish on the street corner after a couple of years of what looked like pretty successful hockey. But what is it about that guy? Do you know anything on Gerard Gallant?
He was another one. It's funny. First off, look, as a Panther fan, that shit that happened with him, that he got thrown off the plane or bus, that was the worst thing ever. If I were him, I would have waited for the whole front office to be like in the building, and I would have lit it on fire, because that's bullshit, right?
They had Yager throwing his duffel bag out the window as they left him literally like in a snowdrift somewhere.
Yeah, like an orphan. It was fucking terrible, man. It was absolutely. You know, I'm the first guy, man. If I got a problem with you, I'll pack your shit for you, and I'll throw it out the bus myself as I make the whole team just like defecate in it.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Defo Show here. We got Mike Lubie Lewitz. I'm Jeff DeForest. By the way, that was Reno Sorbonne. He owns a restaurant, a great spot in Fort Lauderdale Heritage. Did you not go there Saturday night for some kind of celebration, Lubie?
For lunch. Went for
lunch. Okay, on Saturday?
Yes, sir. It's freaking great.
And what do you think?
Great. I mean, we've been there before, but it was cool to go with Shirley. She really enjoyed it. And then they were packed. It was like 2:00 on a Saturday, and they were not only full, but they had a line outside.
Wow.
Which is interesting. And then Reno came in like 20 minutes later, and she got a cake. She thought he was classic. She's like, "We have to do a TikTok of him." I'm like, "I know. I've been telling you." I'm like, "We're gonna do some kind of a show around him. Like, he's not like any human ever." Because
he's a unique character. There's no doubt.
She was in awe of because he was telling stories of what has happened. I'm like, he's like throwing stuff at people. And
he's throwing stuff.
Sure. Like dough. Remember, he threw like dough. Like, and she's like, "You didn't do any of that." He's like, "Of course I did." He's like, "I did all of it." I'm like, "Look, do you see how packed it is? He doesn't have to worry about look, he's not a jerk off. It's just people in this day and age go really to another place as a customer. They really take the customer's always right to like a weird level where it means they don't have to be they don't have to have respect. They don't have to be human beings. So he's like, "All right, you know what? My guests," he calls them, "that are in abundance, appreciate our service, appreciate my staff. We do a really good job. We bust our ass. If there's anything wrong, we always take care of it. So those who are total jerk offs, screw them." And it's like, who not wrong.
Go back to Century Village and go fuck yourself.
Exactly.
All right. A lot of stuff. I mean, we buried you yesterday. We apologize. Should we go ahead and just blow taps for the people that followed our suggestion that you take the points with Purdue? My God, how stupid do you have to feel after that? Couldn't you sense it right away, like from the opening tip? You were thinking, why did I tune into the Defo and Lubie show? Why do I watch this shit? Why am I on Facebook, period? YouTube, forget about it. These guys are losers, and I'm about to lose all of my money. I guess it sort of started to become indicative that it was going the wrong way right before the end of the half there. Because Purdue was hanging in there. Zach Edey was very effective against Klingon early in the ball game. You could see him sort of running out of gas there, Zach Edey, in the first half. And he was not near. He went a long stretch. I remember. And by the way, congratulations to our good friend Ian Eagle calling the championship.
Yeah, he was great. It
was quite a spectacular production. So much more life. I think, you know what? Nance, he had that kind of subdued style, which was appreciated in an era of total maniacal screamers, right? Mm-hmm. You would prefer that, Jim Nance, kind of a a Pat Summerall kind of style, understated, where maybe the color analyst actually is the one that's kind of got the spotlight on them and is being asked to carry the broadcast. Because look, the mechanics of doing play-by-play, especially when you're doing it on TV, Lubie, are fairly simple, are they not? You don't even need to name every player who touches the ball. You're just sort of casting a general idea out there about what's going on. And, it's not like you have to detail, there he is on the wing, and now to the top of the key there, here's Smith. You're not doing a radio call. People can see what the fuck is going on out there. So that subdued style is preferable for me. But Eagle, did he not infuse a very subtle element of enthusiasm into the call that was not there with Jim Nantz? Not there.
And he throws in jokes.
Yeah.
He joked about Skilo. They were talking about all the bigs, the colossals, and then they played underneath it.
Yeah.
Skilo's that I wish was a little bit taller, and Ian being short made a joke about it. And then Raftery was like, you could take out Grant right now. And Grant was like, yeah, I don't have any cartilage. I was like, you definitely wouldn't have heard any of that with Nance.
No, not with Nance. All you would have been hearing about is how great Coach K is, whether he was even involved in the game or not. All right, and then what? Who is doing a color analysis with Nance all those years?
Oh, Nance was Packer and Raftery for most of for the last few.
Did Raftery work with Nance? Yeah.
It was Nance, Billy Packer, Raftery was with someone else, but then I think the last few years they did like the super combo where they would have like Nance, Raftery, and Packer, and then when Packer
checked out, right?
Did he pass it? I mean, I think he retired before he passed, but he may have passed. Grant Hill filled his spot, and that's been the triumvirate for a while, I think.
Yeah. All right. They go down to the court there, and Tracy Wolfson, she is fairly diminutive. We've seen her in person walking around the court when we were at that Final Four, and it's incredible. Yeah, I mean, it has to do like an interview with Zach Edey. I bet she was happy that Edey didn't win. But Klingon, there was no shrimp either. This guy was 7-2. So the bookies tried to tempt you into betting all of your money on Purdue last night, and I don't know that I was overwhelmingly convinced that was going to happen, but a general standard in degenerate behavior would be, and this I got from no less of a wise man than the Polyman many, many years ago, but I believe it to be true that you want to bet on your own opinion. If you don't have an opinion, how many people do you really want to listen to, and who do you listen to, Lubie? I find it odd that people would be convinced that hey, this guy. How do you know this guy is winning any games? You would have certain people like the professor who we respect, but he's had more than a share of losses, no doubt about it. So you need to have your own opinion on this shit. If the professor supports something that you believe, then great, okay, then that just sort of is a little affirmation. The Polyman's double dot theory, where somebody who you respect believes the same thing that you do. And that's kind of what happened last night, although I don't know that I had any kind of numerical equation, empirical formula for how many points Connecticut should have been favored by. Was 6.5 ludicrous? A lot of people thought that.
I thought this was going to be a close game. It was the game I wanted to see. The game everyone wanted to see, supposedly. But I really was like, all right, good. We're going to get to see two heavyweights, which rarely happens in the actual title game. And you actually saw two bigs, and Purdue's guards had struggled all tournament, but they kept talking about how they were top three-point shooting team in the country. Smith was one of the best assist guys in the country. So I was like, okay, they're going to eventually show up. And it was like, to me, that's a big number. I know UConn just rolled through everyone, but I'm like, this is the first time in 2 years. Because last year's tournament, they got a lot of really lucky breaks. And as much as we love Larinaga and UM is not what Purdue is. So it felt like, okay, they're going to come up against a team just like them in stature. And I'm sure they'll be fine. It'll be a great game, but that's a lot of points. Like I felt like the Edey factor was something that would stem the tide, and it did for 80 to 90% of the first half.
Yeah.
And that last minute to 2 minutes, you kind of sort of separated, and I was like, oh, okay. I got like a weird feeling, and the whole second half, it was just a fucking bloodbath.
I mean, the athleticism of the UConn guards, as opposed to what turned out to be a bunch of stiffs that were in the backcourt. I mean, both teams employed one forward, the big man, of course, in the starting lineup, and a 3-guard attack. And you would have to say that the 3 Connecticut guards, were light years ahead in terms of ability and impact on the game. over Purdue, where the Purdue guards just really seemed to be staggering for the entire ball game. It was Brick City, and very similar approach. And I was surprised how many open baskets Connecticut got under the basket behind Zach Edey.
Yep.
That was, I mean, what were these guys doing? Were they not following anybody? It wasn't like they were in a zone. You're watching a guy in a man-to-man defense just losing people completely under the basket while Edie's out there 20 feet away from the hole at the top of the key. You would think that he would be chief in Cuckoo's Nest and just stand in there for as long as he could, threatening the 3-second count, almost like he was in a wrestling match where the ref was constantly getting the 2 and a hook. And then, okay. So the guy flips his shoulders and a 400-pound guy just rolls off. Yeah, they just beat him to the punch all night long, too. And he made shots, but which, there's a brilliant deduction, huh, Lubie? The team that makes more shots is probably going to win the game.
Well, but that's the thing is, look, they were just more athletic and they were able to get their shot.
Yeah.
They kept saying Purdue's only shot 1 3. Yeah, they couldn't get it.
Yes.
They couldn't get a 3. The lawyer guy and Smith were fucking useless. Like Spencer and Newton, the guy Spencer.
Yeah,
it's not a white or black thing. The guy Spencer's a white guy. He was as athletic as he was more athletic than anyone.
He was good at getting that little 12-footer off, which was incredible because he would take it right into the paint, and then he had that little dipsy doodle where he backed up a little bit after a couple of 100 head fakes, and boom, right in the basket. He looked like Jimmy Butler out there.
Yes, the Spencer guy and Newton took over the game, and Edey had no answer for them. That's the weakness in his game is he doesn't commit to help defense. And it's like, dude, you're a big fuck the other guy. Like if a guy's about to shoot a wide open floater, swallow it. Like he just watches. It's like, okay.
He did look like the chief in Cuckoo's Nest there after he got gassed in the end of the first half.
He was done. Yeah, he was done. Yeah, they were making him move in a way that Purdue was not able to control the tempo the way that they want to. UConn was moving the ball, and Edey can't move. He's immobile. That's his big issue.
Although, as Andy pointed out, which we're happy Andy's pointing out anything after the last couple of days.
We're hearing from him.
My God, you talk about a guy that needs a standing 8 count. That's our good friend Andy, and we wish him all of the best there. But Edey, he did his thing. You couldn't fault him for what happened in the game. The guy scores 37 points, grabs 10 rebounds. He blocked a bunch of shots, was especially effective early in the game. And then later on, maybe this was Danny Hurley. I didn't see any real significant adjustment that was made. It's just that, as you said, Lubie, UConn's guards not only got hot, but did a lot on their own on the offensive end, and then really shut these guys down and guarded the perimeter extremely well. So their athleticism seemed to lay over what we saw from the 3 guys that you would have to see that generated from by Purdue. And they ended up looking like a bunch of slugs. I think, did I see that was the lowest point total of the year for the Boilermakers? Holy Rick Mount, what are we talking about here?
I wouldn't doubt it.
So a lot of things pop up. UConn, very distinguished now, 6 championships. That ties them with North Carolina for the 3rd most NCAA titles. They've done all of this in the last 25 years. They've done it spanning kind of different eras in some senses. Where and a lot of different coaches also, some of whom have met with a little bit of controversy and acrimony while they were there. And now they've settled on Danny Hurley, who seems to be. I mean, how could you not say that at this point he is at the very top of the coaching ranks in college basketball? Danny Hurley, 2 straight national championships, 2 wildly different teams, loses 3 players to the NBA. Last year off of his national championship team and comes right back and wins it again in convincing fashion. 12-0 against the spread. 6-0, you talk about Michael Jordan type of stuff. 6-0 UConn is in title games. And overall now 12-1 when going to the Final Four. They had 1 loss in the semifinals and then have won 6 championship contests. So they're very, very strong acquittal of the idea that they are a basketball dynasty. Louis.
They're a blue blood, and with Coach K gone, Roy Williams gone, Calipari has been sort of shown to be a guy that's great at recruiting but can't fucking coach to save his life. Patino has gone through his trials and tribulations. There's really not a great, historic coach out there, and Hurley's just starting to just take that mantle, and it feels like he's going to run with it. And there would be no reason for him to go to Kentucky. All the Kentucky rumors, it's not like he's leaving a job for Kentucky. Like UConn is in that blue blood group. Kentucky may have the most money. Kentucky may spend at a ridiculous rate when it comes to basketball, but UConn wins enough, and they're a big enough program. And again, like Scoop said yesterday, the Northeast is still a basketball hub. There's no other programs in the Northeast. Like St. John's isn't out recruiting fucking UConn right now. So like he can just stand pat, if he wants top level recruits, he can get them, but he can keep recruiting the way he's recruiting with transfers, because that's the name of the game now, is getting guys that can play now and not these fucking 18-year-olds. And he can just do what he wants here. To me, for him to leave, like you were talking before about him like laughing at the question. I don't think it was an Nick Saban situation. I think he's literally laughing. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of money that comes to Kentucky, and the expectations are fucking ridiculous, and it's not easy to win there. Outside of like Coach Cal, who was getting top 3 classes every year, won 1 title. Like I hear there's more at UConn in less time with quote unquote less talent, with way less expectations. Like as much as they win in UConn, the expectations are not fucking absurd. Kentucky, they were already trying to get rid of Coach Cal, and I get it. He hadn't won at a big scale, but every year they had a chance. Like for him to go to Kentucky, I feel like is ludicrous. Like there's literally no win. Whatever money he wants, UConn will give him.
He diffused much of that conversation with his reaction. Not that we haven't seen that before. I mean, the idea that he could laugh that off yesterday and possibly be announced as a new Kentucky head coach today. But that seems to have shifted now, the attention there, and the idea that of the next incoming Kentucky coach has shifted. Oates was mentioned from Alabama. Drew from Baylor, I guess, also is getting consideration. Pitino seemed a little bit far-fetched because I don't know that he wants that at this point. He just took on this monumental task of trying to put St. John's back on the basketball map as a significant contributor. And I don't know, did he come close this year? Seemed like they had a stretch there, I think, where they lost like 8 out of 10 games. And that was before he went nuts at that one press conference.
They were strong at the end of the year. Look, he made them better than they were years. I think he'll be fine at St. John's. But like for where they were, if he just gets them into the tournament and he can get them to like a 32 or a 16, he'll be a fucking god. Like and also with what happened at Louisville, with how he left Kentucky when he went to the Knicks and the Celtics. Like I just don't. I don't.
It would be much more drama, no doubt. I don't know. I mean, maybe having that kind of attention would actually be beneficial to Kentucky, although I don't know that they need it. They just need to start going further in the tournament than the first round and being eliminated in disgrace with Calipari. And, wow, I mean, did you see? I mean, if you saw Calipari when he was walking off the court, was that maybe? I mean, should we have read the body language that he was already in the know? Well, he couldn't have known that, right? Because we didn't know that Musselman was going to end up at USC.
No, there was they sat and had a talk what they were going to do going forward, and Kentucky said they were going to keep him. Yeah, but that's we're keeping you, but you're on or you're on hot seat. You know,
there you go.
You have 1 more year, and then that's it. So he was already like, okay, no coach wants to live under that. So if he can go to Arkansas with the Waltons, and they're going to pay him a shitload of money. And they'll give him at least 3 years to try and work his magic. Yeah. And he'll retire. He's 65. Like, he doesn't need to coach much longer. He's made a crap load of money. Like, I mean.
They must love it. I mean, these guys. Why would Pitino? I mean, he has more money than he needs to get out. He was working for that shipbuilder in Greece who loved him like a son. I would imagine his salary was pretty fat. That it had to be a rough decision to come back and coach at Iona.
Yep.
And would you come back and coach at Iona if you didn't need the money, Lubie? Or would you just say, hey, you know what? It's been a great career. Why don't I buy a couple of racehorses and I'll move on in my life?
I mean, I would.
But they love this shit. That's the thing. All right, so the Hurleys now have Danny Hurley, 2-time college basketball champion, NCAA champion, and in repeat fashion, consecutive years. You had Bobby Hurley, 2-time NCAA player, a champion as a player. And you have the Hurley old man, whose distinctions I'm not aware of, but nonetheless. 26. I was thinking of the Harbaugh old man.
Title.
Yeah, 26 state titles or something as a legendary high school coach and well known. It's Harbaugh's father that I'm not sure. What did Harbaugh's father do? I know he was a coach.
I think he coached high school and college. I think he actually coached at the college level. Because I remember Willie Taggart was on a staff of Jack Harbaugh's, and I think both Harbaugh boys coached under him at some point.
Okay, and of course, Jim Harbaugh, played in the NFL and a national champion as a collegiate coach. John Harbaugh, always consistently with the Ravens, being one of the top teams, and with a Super Bowl championship. So where do they rank, the Hurleys and the Harbaughs?
I would put the Harbaughs a little bit ahead just because of all the actual success they've had altogether.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh's taken a team to the Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh, I think, went to multiple NFC Championship games, and then he took Michigan, who hadn't won a title in 20 years or so, to a national championship. John Harbaugh has made the Ravens been a part of making the Ravens one of the preeminent organizations in the NFL. They've been to multiple Super Bowls, and they've won a Super Bowl. What the Hurleys have done, what Bobby did as a player was fantastic, and as a coach, he's solid, but he's not great. And Bob Hurley seniors for all in the high school level. And as we know down here, like once you started getting reputation as a great high school coach, it sort of just keeps going. So I'm not poo-pooing it, but to me, what Jack Harbaugh did was a little bit more impressive. And then Danny Hurley is a great coach, and he's become elite, but I think all the Harbaughs are elite. So I'd like to give the Harbaughs a little edge, but the Hurleys are coming. Danny alone if he gets a third or a fourth national championship, like that's fucking insane.
It's somewhat debatable. I would lean towards the Harbaughs as being the more accomplished number one American sports family. There's no debate when it comes to who is the most dysfunctional sports family in America or anywhere in the world, and that would be the Mayweathers.
Mayweathers, yeah, I was going to say Mayweathers.
Which really, it is incredible. I don't know if you ever met this guy, Jeff Mayweather. He was also a boxing trainer. He was not as significant as his uncle. Roger. But he, had some success as a trainer. Was in the corner of some world champions, I want to say, Jeff Mayweather. And he's perfectly normal compared to these other guys. Like it really is like an Addams Family situation where there's the one normal person in the family. Other than that, far and away, number one, America's most dysfunctional family, the Mayweathers. And I don't know, is there anybody in the sporting world that is up there? Mayweathers? No, nobody could eclipse
Mayweathers?
Yeah.
I mean, they're all, Floyd Sr. was a loon. Roger Mayweather was.
Yeah, they're all crazy, man.
Floyd is.
Not exactly some sweetheart of a human being, although, there are many people that like him, and it could be, he could be embraceable, I guess, but, the spousal abuse, all of this shit, I don't know. Maybe does it come with the territory? I don't know. I mean, holy Jake LaMotta, what are we talking about here? But highly dysfunctional family, like they don't speak to each other. I guess the Rogers family, but that's only one guy.
One dude, yeah.
Yeah, that's causing all of the problems.
The rest of them seem normal.
All right, we're going to come back with more. Lots more to talk about here. You got the Masters coming up. Tiger Woods had a big practice round. Everybody, are you going to get sucked in here? We're going to suck people in?
Oh,
like
I want
to be Purdue.
I want to hedge. I want to hedge the crap out of it. I want them to get really excited about him, and then I want us to bet against him making the cut.
Yeah, I don't know. Does he make the cut at the Masters? That's an interesting one. He usually fires off a reasonably decent first round. This is the trend of late, where people are saying, oh, well, he's not out of it. Right? Where he'll shoot like 1 over par. Maybe the leader's on the board there at 6 under. So, and he's got to eclipse like 100 guys to get to the leader, but it's doable. And then the next round, all of a sudden, you see him being carried off fucking 16 on a stretcher.
Yes, 100%.
Like, what the fuck?
Yep.
So can you believe the headlines, blaring headlines in the New York Post today that Tiger had like a big practice round of me. And so he's ready to go. He's ready to fire at the Masters. What do you think?
It's great. I really do think it's like your Tyson, Larry Holmes thing. Like I really think like they're going to prop him up. His odds will be fucking great. And maybe you can make some real money going the other way.
There was a big picture of Ali in the paper that day. And it was so bizarre as he's fighting Larry Holmes, and all of a sudden Ali, who had been noticeably out of shape for his previous few bouts, just had been getting heavier and heavier. I got to kill this thing now.
I just think it feels like that. It feels like this, where like he did it just enough to look great. They're gonna all get really excited. It's like Jamarcus Russell in the pro day. Jamarcus Russell did just enough in college, had a fucking ridiculous pro day, #1 pick. One of the last guys to make a nuts amount of money as a rookie quarterback. and then sucked. Like, I think Tiger's going to do everything he can just to look good or look pretty in the swimsuit, and then they'll go play the game.
And they'll realize he's unfortunately been crippled by all of the steroids. That Dr. Galea visit maybe wasn't as fortuitous as he would have thought. Tiger looks great in first practice round. There's a headline, Libby. And they got a picture of Tiger. And the story alludes to the idea that he was out driving on several holes the hard-hitting Will Zalatoris.
There you go.
Will Zalatoris, who you would have to think, I don't know, is he always a long shot to win a tournament? Will Zalatoris, this guy. Used to have the long, scraggly hair. He got it cut. Now he's, back in contention. He had, I think he's, struggled with some kind of injury also. So what do you think? Tiger Woods, are we getting sucked in? Tiger looks great, in quotes, looks great.
Yes.
In first practice round.
I won't watch. I would make a bet on him. If I was to make a bet again, I would pull an Andy, which is what he does for a living, and I would bet against the system. I would go totally.
Yeah. I'm thinking, what kind of price do you get on him withdrawing?
That's true. Tiger out driving is a scary thought.
Yes. Not exactly Parnelli Jones, this guy.
That's when he has had all his issues in a car. Jesus.
Yeah. And this is kind of like Arnie hitting one off the first tee, isn't it? A little bit where okay, so it's a low line drive. It didn't kill a spectator.
Exactly.
Now put Arnie in the cart and get him back to the fucking clubhouse and get him one of those crazy drinks that he had, right? The lemonade iced tea.
Yeah, get him the fuck out of here quick.
Put a lot of vodka in there, man, because the guy's barely breathing. Jesus. That was unmerciful what they did down in Palmer at the Masters. It really was. I mean, after a while, please, come on. You're just dragging him around. It was like sad way to treat a legend. All right, so we're going to come back with more. A lot of stuff happening. Chaos in the Eastern Conference, Lubie. Chaos. How are you feeling about this? A handful of games left. Everything on the line. Everything.
It's a lot of mediocrity is what it is. I mean, that's the problem is even the Bucks now are had mediocre. It's from 2 to...
Had mediocre. They're horrible right now.
From 2 to 10, because the Sixers may be the second best team. Your guy Maxi's definitely shown he's a lot better than Tyler Hero in that debate. But they still don't have a third guy, and Embiid's still working himself back, so he can't play back to back. So who knows what he's going to be? It's the Celtics and then everyone else, and so yeah, from 2, because even the Bucks are close in record to I think the 7th or 8th seed. Like like a 3 or 4 game difference. Like that's insane to go from 2 to 8 and only be like 4 games. Like that's crazy.
It's nuts, yeah. The Knicks have 4 games left, and they could finish anywhere. And you would have to think what a bitter disappointment it would be if they ended up in the play-in part of the draw there. But and we talked about this a lot. We were talking about it on our morning briefing today, Caffeine TV, and NoFilter.net, which you can catch. I mean, we've looked at this from a lot of different angles, and I always thought it was pathetic that these professional sports entities would end up expanding their playoffs.
Yeah.
Now we know. I mean, you're talking about 30 to 32 teams in these various leagues. I guess what NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball all have 30 teams. Is that right?
30. Yeah.
And the NFL has 32.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you have 16 teams in the postseason already and you only have 30 teams in the league, that's more than half. You don't have to be a genius to make that deduction.
Yep.
And, to start thinking about adding more teams in, it's puke-inducing, isn't it, if you're a sports fan? And so, why not just give out participation trophies at the end of the season? These guys are making a ton of money, and you want to make it competitive. And one of the biggest things that professional sports is having to deal with is the relative meaninglessness, Jean Paul Sartre time, of regular season games, especially late in the year, when you would see normally in these last few games, you'd see the stars resting, Louie.
Yes. I mean, no one has a locked in spot, so it may be a little bit more combative, but the fact that you have that play-in hanging over definitely changes things a bit. Problem is, it hasn't changed for the ratings. People still don't care, and the players don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, the ratings aren't... Look, on paper, it should be more interesting, and it does mean more.
I mean, the Heat just played a big game against Indiana in terms of possible outcomes in the postseason. Yeah, and they lost, but you would think, I mean, that game wouldn't have meant much. People were hanging their heads all around town yesterday, including Scoop Skolnick.
Right now is not that. I mean, yeah, I'd rather play the Magic than, I guess, the Bucks, but neither's scary. It's the Celtics that I guess, and again, they're not scary to me, the Celtics, but they're just the best well put together team. They've been healthy all year. They played together all year. They play consistent all year. They're the only team in the entire East that can say that. So that's why they're a notch above. So you'd rather not play them. But again, 6 or 7 would be the same thing, except for the playing game. Problem is the players don't seem to give a shit. Like, they're still missing tons of games. Even late in the season, they're missing tons of games. So it's like, I don't know what to do. The NBA is trying to make the regular season matter, and the players are like,
They still don't give a fuck, huh? By the way, the officials, I don't know if anybody was crying about this, but the official word came out on the officials, and they admitted that they blew a couple of calls.
Two calls that were bad.
At the end of that Indiana game. Spoelstra's been looking particularly, I mean, when he's enraged a little bit or outraged by certain circumstances that transpire in a game, especially with officiating, his eyeballs, I mean, they get like Marty Feldman, don't they? The guy that always had the bulging eyeballs, an actor, a long-time actor. You saw him in a lot of movies. Very, very fine comedic actor. Marty Feldman, he was great. Brilliant in his day, and played that thing out to just perfection, the way he used these gigantic eyeballs. But doesn't he look a little eccentric there, Spoelstra, when he's outraged? And he had every reason to be, apparently, because the refs themselves said, hey, you know what, we might have blown a couple of calls there at the end.
They were rough. The Miles Turner one was supposedly great defense that would have been a turnover and an easy basket to tie the game with 17 seconds left. Yeah. They called that a foul instead, giving them free throws, and he hit both. Then there was supposedly another one in the last, I think
Tyler Hero supposedly was fouled, I think, when he was taking that three-pointer. Should have gotten the strike.
Tied the game instead of making it a 1 point. Yeah. So, but whatever, you can't rule on that. Spoelstra just had a tough year, like between the divorce and this team hasn't helped him. Like
everything's gone south since he got the money.
Honestly, it's been like a.
Well, would you rather have a bag full of money? That's a good question. I mean, just more money than you could ever imagine spending in a lifetime. You're making $12 million a year. I mean, that's significant cake, isn't it, Lubie? I mean, one hit of $12 million, I'm out the door. And so. Well, would you rather have that, or would you rather have peace and harmony in your life?
You're talking to the wrong guy. You're talking to the guy that had his one divorce and is married a woman that he's capitulating most of what he thinks and wants to what she wants, just to be left the fuck alone. So, I want enough money to survive.
You just described marriage in total perfection there.
Well, but most guys
that was poetry, Lubie, right there.
Most guys don't capitulate, and that's why you get 2 and 3 divorces and. And I don't judge anyone. The first time was enough, and I love her. So I'm like, yeah, whatever you want, leave me the fuck alone. And Shirley's gotten good at leaving me the fuck alone. So she leaves me alone. I give her not everything she wants, but just enough to leave me the fuck alone.
I just want to be left alone.
I vote for the peace. I've learned enough money is fine. I don't need to be rich because a lot of shit comes when you're rich. And it feels like the people who are rich are actually just as bitter as the people who are poor. It's people in the middle that seem to be happier.
It'd be nice not to have to worry about this shit, though. That's the one thing.
I want enough money where I don't have to worry about money. But
you have to render money meaningless, with regard to what level of lifestyle. I mean, if you want to be out there with yachts and all of that stuff, that's a whole nother world. Yeah.
I don't care about that.
I just need my wave runner, and that's it. Boogie down the intercoastal. Every once in a while, I go out in the ocean and say, wow, look at me.
But you're not wrong. My jet ski, Spoelstra got that deal. That was this great, crazy deal, and it feels like everything's gone to shit.
Everything around him is crumbling. Right? So home life, team, heat culture, honestly. Jimmy Butler. We don't know what Jimmy Butler is going to show up from game to game. Very interesting what's happening there. All right, money, the root of all evil. All right, we're coming back with more. Speaking of money, we got to try to make some here on the program. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz with you, the Defo Show, on a Tuesday when UConn was crowned the national champion after we recommended, and it really did. I mean... Started to say this before. I mean, the theory is, make your own line and then see what the line is and see which side you fall on. Okay, so if you saw this game as like a 4-point game, I mean, we don't have the. After a while, can't you just do the eyeball test on a lot of these spreads? Rarely are you completely stunned when you're thinking, okay, that's going to be a 3-point game, and it comes out and it's 8.
Yeah.
Usually if you've been doing this for a while, you have some idea what the point spread might be. So most of the people that I would consider to be sophisticated basketball observers, i.e. the professor and others, had the game like as a 3.5, 4-point game, with UConn being favored.
Yes.
Now they offer you 6.5. I mean, every rule, every bylaw of gambling, every tenet that degenerate behavior is based on would tell you, go ahead. They're giving you 2.5 more
Yeah.
points than you think you should be getting to begin with to level the sides.
Yes.
So you have to take the points in that spot, no?
I'm not mad at our call.
And yet, knowing that you were going to get hammered because UConn has covered 12 straight spreads en route to 12 straight wins straight up in the NCAA tournament the last 2 years. 12-0, Lubie, against the spread. ATS, 12 and fucking 0.
Well, their margin of victory, I think, ended up being like 23 or 24 points.
Yeah.
Unbelievable,
yeah. And we're betting against them in the title game.
Yeah.
Because this guy, Zach Edey, who looks like Lurch, man, and he was fine. You couldn't look at him. I mean, he's not capable of doing everything. And he has his flaws, but in general, I mean, if you're getting 37 points out of a guy who's taking shots from 3 feet from the basket, he did tire, though. He started to miss some of those really close point-blank range shots that he never misses those. So, because, I mean, obviously he's going to shoot a high percentage from the floor since he's basically standing under the basket most of the time. But he had some real close-range shots that missed yesterday after he seemed to tire somewhere about 3/4 of the way through the first half.
Yeah, I was going to say the late first half and then the early second half.
Yeah.
He struggled, and that's where you saw UConn go from it being a 5 to 7 point game to being a 14 to 18 point game. And their guards were not shooting well enough to get them back in the game.
No, Brick City, man. Unbelievable. Mason cards. All right, we're going to come back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show. Here on this fine Tuesday. Back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:42. Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine foods served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten a sugar now.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show on this fine Tuesday. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz. Did you get caught up at all in Eclipse Mania? I just couldn't figure out where to get the glasses, Lubie, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to test the theory that I did test with my mother when she insisted that you could go blind from too much masturbation. I don't know. I didn't want to test whether or not you could go blind from just staring at this thing. My understanding is that in Florida, it was kind of like a partial eclipse, what was viewable. Did you get involved in any of this? Did you watch it on TV?
I saw. First of all, it was cloudy by me all day long, so I don't know how I would have seen it anyways. And I wasn't going to start driving to find a better spot. I didn't have the glasses online and on TV. They kept showing what it looked like. I'm like, okay, so it was
kind of cool, right? I mean, it's daylight all of a sudden, and then it's pitch black. And this was, I guess they had Nora O'Donnell of CBS News was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Supposedly in Indiana was like one of the great spots. throughout the day or whatever.
Right, and they had the glasses and all of the shit, and they were able to stare at this thing, and people were going crazy, man. They were going absolutely nuts.
It was cool. I mean, to see the sun get covered up by the moon daytime, but I don't know. I wasn't going out of my way.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, man. It was like Dean Martin Day, man. Unbelievable. All right, so hopefully everybody survived that without getting blurred vision. As that was the big thing of the day yesterday. The Marlins got crushed like a grape again. They're now 1-10. Our two recommendations were Marlins under, Pirates over, and both of those wagers are off to a spectacular start. In fact, you can't wait for the midway point of the season. There already, I saw it actually, an allusion to the Marlins, as there was a handicapper in the New York Post that was recommending that you go ahead and play the Yankees today. And they already had equated the Marlins with mathematical elimination, Lubie. Is this the earliest in the year? The Yankees, by the way, this surprised me. Wouldn't you think that the Yankees in their fabled history would have gotten off to a better 11-game start at some point in time than 9-2? Like they might have come out of the chute 11-0. Lubie, I mean, would you think that? As long as they've been in existence, the New York Yankees, 9-2 is their best ever franchise record through 11 games of the season. Yes.
They usually struggle to start like that. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you would have thought maybe, at some point in time they would have gone like 20-1 when they had, especially when they had those dominant teams, late 50s, early 60s.
Murderers Row wasn't just killing at the beginning. Like I find that hard.
Yeah, the Bambino couldn't put one on there. He's got Lou Gehrig hitting behind him, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, that's weird.
Oh, fuck.
I mean,
unbelievable.
Marlins yesterday was ridiculous.
7-0. Yeah, Sonny said they needed a touchdown. He sent me a text. I wasn't watching the game. Was out playing a little old man tennis last night, which is always an interesting proposition, especially with my pal Dr. Jerry rapidly approaching 73 years old. And you know what? I had to take. I hadn't played in a couple of weeks, Lubie. You take those first running steps after a while. Now, I'm doing my walk of life every day, which is fine, and that kind of you have to figure that's keeping you in reasonably good shape.
Yes.
But I took a run. I almost went down. I nearly a standing 8 count at one point.
Don't fall. That's the one thing you don't want to fuck with his hips. That's like the worst thing you could screw.
I think I could survive still. I have a couple of more years left before those become tragic.
Just don't fall.
Where you go down. No, it was just the clumsiness of it. I felt like Jean-Jean Pachulia coming out there to cover Kawhi Leonard and knocking him into the stands. As Popovich is bitching and moaning, oh my God, can you believe this? No, that was a classic. I mean, again, we should pay tribute to, and the gentleman's name escapes me, the NBA TV guy that checked out, unfortunately. Had COVID, right? Remember?
Who?
Remember the guy that we used to have from NBA television all the time on?
Sekou Smith,
yeah. And he was the guy that asked the question of Popovich that got whole thing going. Yeah, that whole tirade.
Yeah.
If you think for 1 second, that was fantastic. All right. And we touched on this thing in the NBA. I guess it really doesn't matter to a lot of people, right? Because is it that the NBA has created such chaos that it's not good?
No. It's the maintenance bullshit. I mean, people are just like the stars themselves fuck around in the regular season so much that it feels like the fans have just sort of said, screw the NBA. Like it's just the competitive. They feel like the competitor in the NBA player is not where. Look, Jimmy Butler supposedly was one of the greatest competitors ever.
Yeah, and he doesn't give a shit anymore.
Put around in the regular season, so it's like okay. I mean, if guys like that,
he was talking about like it's only a game yesterday.
Yeah, he said, "Well, no plan, we'll be fine." It's like, dude, you've said that all year, and you're not fine. Like you're not fine. Stop saying.
I think he's resigned to the idea that is it possible they've tried to build his team around him.
Yes.
Is it possible that they part ways sooner than later? What do you think? Do they just rub the slate clean and start over again? Because they were knocking on the door of a championship last year. They did win a game in the series, right? I mean, what did they lose? 4-1 to the Denver Nuggets.
Did it go 6 or 5?
What was it? 6? It seems to me like that was a 5-game thing, but no. Then Denver would have won it here. On the Heat's home wood.
It was 6.
Yeah.
And in game 6, he actually played maybe their best game and almost won and pushed it to 7 in a series that no one ever thought he were going to win. Even I, down deep, felt the Nuggets were going to win, but they almost pushed it to 7. Yeah, look.
So within an eyelash of doing the impossible.
And the Lakers bubble year, they were actually outplaying the Lakers for a lot of that series. Just Dragic and Bam and Hero were all hurt in that series,
right?
And they still pushed the Lakers to 6. Butler was superhuman. So, yeah, I mean, it feels like he's doing more and more of this. He is getting a step slower. Again, he's not that old, but he's played very physical basketball for his entire career. And we know
Scoop too pointed out that he's not getting these calls like he used to, where he does the quadruple head fake.
He's not getting him at all.
Yeah,
and that's where he based a lot of his game
he's
on.
up and down, like his head's on a spring. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And it's impossible not to foul a guy after a while because, of course, they're not calling 3 seconds. When was the last time you saw a 3 seconds call in the NBA?
Rare.
That has to go back to like Kuzi. hey, Wilt, you're going to pitch a tent in there? What the fuck? Right? I mean, they never call 3 seconds in the NBA, do they? You see guys in the paint there for half an hour. They rarely call 5 seconds on the inbound pass also, when you're sitting there counting Mississippis for like a half an hour.
Yep.
And the guy's like this, and he's looking around, and he's thinking, did they call a timeout? No, they're just letting this guy take forever. Throw the ball in. That's why it's so weird when you get the arbitrary call like you did in that women's game, which people are going to point out. And I was going to, sort of the comparison that you could make. I guess if you were watching the men's game last night, and now the common opinion, and this is the popular point of view to take, Lubie, is that, well, the women's game got more of an audience. The tickets for the women's game were more expensive. And the women's game was far more entertaining than the men's game. I don't know that you could say that.
I mean, I think each game the men took the number. I think in the end, like the women's were setting their records and the men outdid them. I still feel like last night's game did more than South Carolina Iowa game. I have to see that. I haven't seen either number yet. No, I mean, Iowa got hammered like Purdue got hammered. I mean, both dominant teams were dominant. In South Carolina, who was undefeated the last 2 years, and UConn, who their margin of victory the last 2 years is utterly fucking ridiculous.
But people get on us because it seems like what we're implying, Louis, that the women's game is vastly inferior to the men's game. And here's where the differential is. Like if you looked at this game last night, what are we talking about here? We're talking about 3 supporting players on the UConn team that all made significant contributions and all had moves of their own. Like all of these people, the depth is one of the big differences. I mean, the overall athleticism of the men versus the women is significant. The difference and the fact that everybody can play that's out there on the court. I don't know that you see that in the women's game, right? Some of these, it just looks like a scrum at times still, where and the missed layups and the bricks. Substantial, much more substantial in the women's game than it is, if you're watching a men's game, right? Pace also, although the pace of the women's game has picked up, the tempo definitely is a lot faster, I think, than it has been at any time in the history of the game. With Caitlin Clark, could she have been on the court in the men's game? That's a good question, Louis. What do you think? If she was like, you were, this happens, at times, you've been involved in a situation where all of a sudden you got one woman that's out there playing.
Yes.
And she probably even is a woman of some significance that has like a reputation for being a really good player.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Could Caitlin Clark have been on the court in that men's game last night? No, and not been just absolutely subjected to total abuse at the defensive end?
I think she wouldn't have had a shot at all. But the people like Sarnia are saying, what you and I do, the comparing, we shouldn't compare. They're two different things. My problem
well, they are. I mean, they are too. And that's the problem right there.
Exactly. When I turn it on, all I can think about, look, not with the last few games, I watched them. I tried to leave them as separate entities, and that's fine because it was the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, okay? But most of the time when I try and watch the women, all I can see is the differences between the men and the women. I'm saying everyone should do that. It's just what I do. And it's hard for me to get away from that. It just is.
It's a little bit of a different game. It's coming closer to being on a parallel, but it still has a ways to go. You would have to say
it's just a different game, and it's hard for me to watch. I'm not going to lie. It just is. I'm not telling others to not watch. Yeah. I'm saying it's hard for me to watch.
But it became much more watchable,
yes,
and became of much more intrigue. Because you would have to say that there had to be millions of people that previously had zero interest in this, and they were sparked and inspired to actually give a shit. Which we spent time. All of a sudden, it's great in this business. You become an expert after watching one game. It's fantastic. But it doesn't take much if you've been watching sports your whole life. I mean, you can kind of get a picture of what's going on very quickly. People would dispute that. And maybe, I mean, to qualify yourself as I'm never going to be an expert on women's college basketball, but I've watched enough of it to see the huge differential, and still say that two different brands of basketball,
yes,
is the only way to make that judgment. So to constantly be making these comparisons as if they were one and the same, I just think is a big mistake. I really do. And there's nothing wrong with distinguishing them as two separate entities. Where you have women's basketball. Oh, this was a brilliant dissertation, and men's. But you're not trying to say that Caitlin Clark is the greatest college scorer of all time, because it's a separate category altogether.
That's what's funny is people give people like me crap for comparing them.
That's not being sexist. That's just true. I mean, it's qualifying. It's like you have different weight divisions in boxing, or I mean, it's a different story altogether.
I just don't. I actually don't think it's fair when they do this. Could she play in the NBA? No, she couldn't. What would she do against the men? Get owned. Why? But I don't think it's fair to her to do that. Like, we don't watch swimming and go, what would Katie Ledecky do versus Michael Phelps? Get annihilated.
Get smoked, yeah.
Let Katie Ledecky.
She's great on her own, exactly.
Why are we doing that? I would watch Serena, I know they did that, but I didn't. I wasn't like, I wonder what she would do versus Pete Sampras. Like, I didn't. We saw it. The fucking guy sucked and still should have beaten Billie Jean King. It's just, but why? Like, I think it's not fair.
In a fixed match, Bobby Riggs almost won.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he wasn't even trying. Like, I just think, I think it's weird that people do that. Like, just let Caitlin Clark be great. You want to do the GOAT conversation, you can. I think it's weird that every other sport, man or woman, you needed to win at least one title. And magically now, because people love Caitlin Clark, she doesn't have to win a title. I think that's weird. I think she's a great, but I don't, to me, if you have women that have won 3 and 4 titles and they were great players too, like, why? Well, she went to Iowa and they had no one. Okay, well then she should have gone to fucking Iowa. I don't like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Go to Kentucky. Like,
go
why
to UCLA, whatever.
Joining good programs. Like, that's weird.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, it was a good story. I hope she doesn't disappear from the national scope. Because she for anybody that ever shot a basketball, when she starts lining up those 30-footers and they're nothing but net, which she was on fire early in that game. And you couldn't help but think, wow, this is actually exciting. The star that we tuned in to see is living up to all of the hype and expectation, and maybe even exceeding it at some point. But unfortunately, you need a team, right? I mean, look, Zach Edey found that out last night. His guys let him down, you would have to say.
Yes.
Maybe that was attributable to UConn's defense. We often overlook that when a guy's having a lousy game, that maybe they're being defended very well. Danny Hurley certainly... whatever adjustments he made early in the game when it was close, they were going back and forth for about the first 12, 13 minutes in that ball game, maybe more.
Yeah.
And then UConn started to open up, and it looked like they may even lead by double digits at halftime. They ended up on 6. They never lose when they're leading at halftime. They never lose, period. And in spite of having 3 losses on the season, seemed to be there was a point in time during the course of the regular season where, and we touched on this a little bit. Where people were of the perception that UConn was in a separate category than the rest of the college basketball team.
Creighton game, because they had that one game where Creighton got fucking hot and got out to a big lead, and UConn couldn't catch up, changed people's opinion. But the reality is, before the game and after that game, they stood alone. They were just as good as Houston was, as good as Purdue was. UConn was just on another level, and they actually got better in the tournament, which is rare. Yeah.
Did they play 40 games?
I don't know. They played a lot of games. Yeah.
I don't know. Were they 37-3? Was that their final record? 40 games they played. Jeez. That seems like a vast expansion from what we used to see when it came to college basketball teams of the distant past. All right. Congratulations to the University of Connecticut. Congratulations to those who ignored us yesterday when we tried to act like we knew what we were talking about. They said, hey, well, if you got that line at 4 and they're giving you 6.5, they're begging you to bet Purdue. We're going to go with that. Oh, fucking stupid, Lubie. All right. We will see you guys tomorrow. Another repeat edition there, or maybe it's a fresh edition of a Mike Mayo Lunchbox show at 1 o'clock today. Where are you guys at today?
That
was the Taco Craft one coming up? Okay, good.
Mayo's back in town Wednesday. So we'll be at Batch Thursday, and we're getting really good audiences for our repeat performances. So that'll continue again today.
Best of, so to speak. That's fantastic. Taco Craft is great, man. I still have a taste of those, of all things, a vegan taco, which had mushrooms and some kind of, I don't know what the hell the other stuff was, but wow, it was fantastic. I mean, just as tasty as you could get. They do a great job there. So that'll be coming up later on today. We will see you tomorrow, and thanks very much for tuning in, everybody. Tomorrow we go old school with Tony Segreto. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurant. Another great place. Restaurants all around the country. Phenomenal number. What did he say? It was like 600 stores.
Over 600, yeah. And
it's amazing, huh? Wow.
Yep.
What a phenomenon, man. And that guy, the CEO, when COVID hit, he unfortunately checked out shortly after that. But he was the most generous of CEOs.
Yes.
During that period of time where he said, hey, I'm giving up my salary. I'm dividing it up among my workers who are hurting right now.
Yep.
And so, well respected. And that whole philanthropic approach and selfless approach seems to be reflected in the way that they conduct their business. It really is a great place. So we'll have Tony on tomorrow, Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. We recommend it wholeheartedly. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time as we leave you on that.
The time.
It's 9:01.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.